Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main event. You're here with me, a smiling Daniel,
And just normal face Aaron.
just normal poker face Aaron. How you doing, Aaron? Have you recovered emotionally because you were very potty mouthed in the last live stream? Honestly, you were a disgrace, quite frankly.
I do apologize, but the I was fine, and then I reopened the app and I saw my rank for the first time.
But I haven't actually looked.
So just as a little bit of a heads up, Dan, when you do open the app, you them emotions will come back to you. So do it after the
Fantastic.
stream.
Yeah, I will do. I don't think anyone wants another emotional breakdown from you, not from me. I was cool, calm, and collected as ever. That being said, we do have another match day right round the corner, thick and fast for the World Cup. So today we are on to match day 5. And we're going to start, as ever, with the Tuesday games for this podcast. And then we will jump on to the Wednesday games for the next one.
So we'll start with the early Tuesday kickoffs. We'll start with the most exciting game, which is the Sevilla Copenhagen.
That's the more exciting game. Christ.
No, Salzburg, Chelsea. The result went really well for Salzburg in the last time these clubs met, but Chelsea completely, well, they've made some wholesale changes. Graham Potter has come out and said that people who didn't feature on the weekend are more likely to play in this game. So they'll give us a bit of a heads up, but we don't need that heads up because we'll see the lineups anyways. I think the biggest heartbreak for this is that Reece James is injured. And so that might be a transfer waiting to happen for a lot of people who wildcarded in. I don't know who did that against Milan, but fair play to you for those who that did. But Chelsea drew 1-1 against Man United over the weekend. Jorginho with the penalty. And things seem to be gelling under Potter's new kind of system. But in terms of transfers, we normally try and prioritize the Tuesday transfers. This is definitely the fixture to target out of the two, in my opinion, because Sevilla are just Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know which one will turn up, and they're so unpredictable. But to be honest, I'm probably looking at other fixtures on this day to try and get players in. There are some interesting prices for some of these players, though. And Salzburg, sorry, they drew 0-0. They did get a last-minute red card. Salzburg are doing all right, but this time Salzburg are at home, Chelsea away, and we'll see how they get on. Salzburg did win 6-1 in the cup and 3-1 since we've last recorded, though, so in good form. What's your feelings on this, Dan?
I think it's a bit of a lousy fixture because we'll say to a blue in the face, Salzburg are not to be underestimated by any stretch. I don't think this is going to be an easy game for Chelsea. I do still think we're going through their transition into Potter. They do look better. They do look better now than what they were. I thought Man United give them a bit of a battering, and I did see somewhere that Chelsea had a higher XG, but that's because they had a penalty, which is like counts as what 0.76 of XG or something like that. So without that, they didn't really create much. I tried watching the first half, and it was a try. I just thought I'm not wasting my Saturday evening doing this. It was a rubbish game. It was so boring. Man United did try. I don't like complimenting Man United, but they give a good go of it. I thought Chelsea were pretty abject. Without Reece James, they are definitely missing something down that right hand side. Loftus-Cheek isn't the same, and I think it was Aspilicueta playing there yesterday. He's getting on. I don't think he's got what it takes to be a right wing back anymore. Maybe a right-sided centre back, maybe even a right back and a back four, but right wing back with the energy that Reece James brings, not for me. I think for this, you're going to hear this phrase a lot during these podcasts. Reece James aside, because of his injury, I feel like Chelsea assets are a hold, not a buy. And that goes for Salzburg as well. If you have Okafor, keep him. There are going to be so many players that you're going to be missing, I think, this week. with the likes of spoiler for maybe the next podcast, Sané, stuff like that. That they're not really priority. Like you don't need to panic about not having certain players or by actually having certain players. Chelsea, the only player that I really worry for, so cue a brace, is Sterling. He doesn't look like he's playing well at the minute. Beyond that, just keep whoever you've got. Sell Reece James. I think Kepa's looking like a really good pick these days. For anyone that wants him. But again, is now the time? Maybe they've got. It's going to be a high scoring game, and they do have Zagreb in the final game. So maybe now is the time to do the hokey cokey on a goalkeeper, or if you do have Reece James, you could bring in another Chelsea defender. Potter's given us a clue about who will be playing, but as you say, Aaron, we don't need those clues. We get to see this team sheet. But I can see this being a draw.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I think Chelsea will win. They have to in terms of the Champions League table. Just waiting for it to kind of freshen up. But because Chelsea did do well in terms of the games against AC Milan, comfortable wins, they are sitting at top 7 points. Salzburg at 6. So this is the tie to kind of secure top spot, as you were, because if Chelsea win this, I think they do guarantee to go through because they got the head-to-head difference over Milan. And so it is going to be a massive going into matchday 6 as well for for Salzburg and Milan. If Milan beat Dynamo Zagreb, which we would hope that they will, then that means that Salzburg into Milan in the last match day, and that looks really good. While Chelsea, Dynamo Zagreb could be rotation for a lot of these players. So you definitely don't want to be buying any of these Chelsea players unless you want to take a punt on Pulisic or someone like that. But again, it just comes down to funds, I think.
Now on to that exciting game. Aaron, is it Sevilla versus Copenhagen? Can we just not talk about this? Is that fine to not talk about this? Do people want to know?
We'll mention it briefly. We'll mention
that Copenhagen drew 1-1 with Midtjylland at the weekend. That Sevilla got beat yet again, although it was off Real Madrid. And they did score.
They did.
But still.
And they drew 1-1 since our last podcast as well with Valencia. I think this is the Europa League playoff hit for this Group G. They are 3rd and 4th. Man City already qualified. Dortmund are 7 points. You don't see any of these teams winning twice. Dortmund losing twice. You don't see that happening. But Dortmund have capitulated the last moment before. But even then, I just don't see it happening.
Nah.
And so this is Europa League playoff. After that, like kind of what you said, there's no one we really want to bring in for either of these teams because they're just going to get absolutely battered in matchday 6. That's all we'll need
for
to
anyone see. For anyone that still has a limitless, you could go Sevilla. I think Sevilla will win it. Like I think you could get a Sevilla player in, but I don't know which one you bring in. Like there's none of them that are screaming out buy me, which is the issue really. And you probably just do better elsewhere. Like I say, I don't really feel like we need to waste our times with it.
Yeah,
at all.
Let's move on to the next match in this group. So Dortmund versus Man City, a lot more exciting. Man City winning, Haaland scoring again. De Bruyne getting the 3rd goal against Brighton. They have already qualified. It is in Germany. I think the biggest question will be, is their rotation? And when it comes to Man City, their next game is against Leicester, which normally in seasons past, you would be like, that's a tough game. Leicester are just not looking like themselves. So I think that this could be a full strength Man City, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that's good news for those who have kept Haaland and De Bruyne and stuff like that from the rotation last time. If it wasn't for the disaster of my transfers last match day, I would have Haaland still. But yeah, I think that are these players that you're looking at buying though if you don't have them from a Man City perspective? Obviously, Dortmund very different, but
you know what? I think this is a great game to get in on because I think they're both great. At the minute, Dortmund won 5-0 at the weekend. Bellingham has scored yet again. I think Guerrero got a couple of assists. And with Man City, would like to assume that Foden's going to start because of his benching, but you just never know what Pep. I mean, Mahrez had a terrible game at the weekend. He wasn't very good at all, particularly in the second half. The first half was okay, but I mean, me and you could have played for Man City on the right wing in the first half against Brighton in that game. In the second half, he wasn't very good. So I could see Foden coming back in. I can see Grealish playing again. So these are good players to have. I can see goals without and honestly, Dortmund could get a result. We've said before, English teams don't do great away from home. In Germany, Man City are very different. They don't play a typical English way by any stretch. So obviously, I think it's fair to maybe say, oh, well, they're the stronger team. But Dortmund showed a really, really good side to their game away at Man City. They were excellent. And I think Man City only had 2 shots on target and scored from them both. With these, I would not be scared of getting in someone like Guerrero because he's a Tuesday. If he doesn't do well, you can sub him out. It's fine. And then you've got him for the last game where I think they're going to want to go for it still against Copenhagen. And Bellingham, I've been a mug not having him. Just like this is the one. He's the one player that I've just thought, how have I not had him? I think he's just scored in every game this season, in every competition.
Feels like it.
So with that, yeah, like he's a joke. Kid's a joke. How did he finish like 5th or 6th in the Young Ballon d'Or running us of it? Pathetic. Miles clear of Gavi.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there are a couple of Dortmund assets you can go for. Bellingham and Guerrero, even against Man City. Don't be scared. It's a Tuesday. If it goes wrong, it's absolutely fine. Man City, as long as you don't have Mahrez, the absolute scumbag missing the pen in the last bit. Or Gomez. Was it Gomez that got
Yeah, Gomez got a red card.
off?
I was just going to bring that up actually.
So if you got him, he needs to go.
I think Man City in this game against Brighton trialed what they're going to do against Dortmund. I think they let the back four have a chance to play in this system. So Akanji, also ex-Dortmund, played right back. Diaz, Laporte, Cancelo. I do think that that's going to be the back four against Dortmund. And then Bernardo Silva, De Bruyne, Rodri, that's probably going to be the same. And it is going to be interesting. Foden, Grealish, Haaland up front. I would probably guess, but I do think that Akanji will probably be the right back if Stones doesn't get thrown in there.
Yeah.
I do think though that they did quite well against Brighton though. Brighton are just one of them teams where they're just a really good footballing team. And so Trossard, I mean, he does play on that side. I didn't see the goal. I don't know if it came from the right side. So I don't know if Pep will see that as an issue.
Oh, it came from Man City's right, yeah. It was a bit of a goalkeeping howler as well.
Right.
Like positioning, yeah, post. Good strike. Probably shouldn't have scored, but yeah. It would be a concern because I think who's going to be on the left for Dortmund? Gio Reyna's back, so it could be him. They're rotating everyone on that left-hand side and right because Brandt can operate both sides, but Gio Reyna, I think Hazard's still injured, I think. But then they'll put Moukoko either up front or out there. Adeyemi's been playing on the right, so that shifts some players across to the left. Moukoko has been in form. He's been getting in the goals this weekend. So you know what, Moukoko could be a little shout for the next 2 games. Man City aren't infallible by any stretch of the imagination defensively. They'll probably they are good enough to win largely because of Haaland at the minute. And I suppose it is slightly unfair to say because if Haaland wasn't playing, Man City would play a completely different style of football. They'd be far more possession based. They play that false nine again. They totally change how they play and they suffocate teams. They have changed because Haaland's in, opposed to just they're playing badly and Haaland's saving them. That'd be really lazy to say, I think. But because of the way that they're playing and focusing on getting Haaland's goals, I do think that they are a little bit more susceptible at the back. And especially without their best back four playing.
Yeah. Agreed. And so Bellingham is still on people's transfer list, rightly so, and we should look to potentially get him. He's going to get a price rise as well. So if you're looking to get as much value going into the team reset, you definitely want to have a look at Bellingham for both match days. The other group that we touched on, Group E, we're going to do Dynamo Zagreb to AC Milan. AC Milan winning 4-1 against Monza. Brahim Diaz, Origi, and Rafael Leao with the goals. Dynamo Zagreb drawing 1-1. Milan have to win this. This is it's definitely being touted in Italy as must win. I feel like I'm stating the obvious with that. But just in terms of kind of personnel and injuries, it looks like they're starting to get people back, but it's still a bit makeshift. So Serginho Dest is starting at right back. Well, he did last or over the weekend. Kier's back, the absolute legend himself. Okay. Tomori and Theo Hernandez was the back four. Benacer and Pobega were the defensive midfielders, and they then reverted back, instead of having three CDMs, the usual 4-2-3-1 system, so were they able to be more attacking. Origi was the starting striker, so Leao didn't start. It was very rotated, kind of showing how much emphasis they are putting on this game. And then people who weren't maybe the fittest, Dest, Kier, Diaz, Rebic, were all subbed off. No injuries that I'm aware of, but Leao came off the bench and scored. So if only he was a midfielder, I feel like a lot more people would have had him in their teams.
Yeah.
But I think this should be AC Milan strong favourites. What are your thoughts on this match? It was 3-1 in the reverse fixture.
Yeah, I think Milan, you might be able to answer this better. How do you think they're going to cope with the pressure? I think this is the most high pressure game that they would have had to have played so far in the Champions League at all.
I think they've done quite well. Because other than their loss to Napoli, that was like the first league game they had lost in like over 20 games, and they had played Inter like both times. They played in so many must-win games, and they're just a different kind of mindset with team. And I think Ibrahimovic, even though he's not played, has been a massive part of that. And so even when he's not playing, he's like coaching the youngsters and getting kind of that winning mentality into the team. And there are just a lot different mindset wise. Obviously, it didn't show against Chelsea, but they couldn't have done anything else other than what they were. That was kind of that was 6 points gifted to Chelsea to give them a lifeline in the group.
I agree.
But I think now that they're going to start to come back into it, I do think that kind of due to the matches against Chelsea, second place is what they can hope best for. But it does come down to match day 6, and I do think that they'll be rotation proof as a result, because they're going to have to go for it both games.
I agree, and I think now is the time for the Theo Hernandez train. If you've got Reece James and you want a premium, and you may be scared of Cancelo, maybe scared of the Liverpool assets because they're rotating the fullbacks, I think now's the time for Theo, and maybe even Leao up front. What midfielder would you recommend getting? Like, I don't think De Ketelaere's worth it. Is De Ketelaere even fit?
It doesn't seem. He was on the bench, from what I saw. Well, if I remember correctly, their benches were absolutely huge. Yeah, Yeah, De Ketelaere is, yeah, he came on for Rebic. Um, so in terms of defenders, I'm just going off kind of the last time that they faced each other. So Hernandez got an assist against Zagreb, but
But they
only one
scored,
ball
didn't they?
but only one ball recovery. So you are chasing him for his
Mm.
attacking ceiling. But in terms of midfielders for AC Milan, it is quite hard to say because most of them are defensive midfielders in the app. Um, I don't know if you'd want to go De Ketelaere Diaz because you don't know which one will start. It is a Tuesday, so you can take a little bit of a risk, even though Diaz is
Yeah.
1.1 million cheaper. But Pobega 5 million. If you still got somehow like Shved or someone in your team,
Yeah.
he scored against um Zagreb last time. Um, but yeah, they've got a few good options to be honest, and obviously Kier 4.5 defender who I don't know what his fitness is like. Tomori started with him, but Kalulu was on the bench, so I think he was just getting rested.
Tomori will be suspended as well, I imagine, for this game.
Yeah, the red card, I forgot. So yeah, it would probably
Yeah,
be Kalulu and Kier starting centre backs.
for this one. It's not the best, still not the best defense. Manyan still out, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Looking iffy. Yeah, maybe. It's just a shame. Milan
Yeah,
just don't have a talismanic figure.
well, they
Is
do
Rebic a
Liao, but
forward?
he's listed in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
wrong
he's a
position.
forward. Yeah. He's the one, isn't he? He is
Yeah.
the one. God damn it. Uh, yeah. Silabi. Next game.
Yeah. So I think the biggest game that we're probably looking to target on this day, Maccabi Haifa versus Paris Saint-Germain.
Oui,
So,
oui.
I mean, Paris Saint-Germain kind of been hit and miss since, well, individuals have been hit and miss since we've last recorded. So they did beat Marseille, um, but that was a Neymar goal, whose his form has kind of faded a little bit at the wrong time in the run up to the World Cup. But they did win 3-0. Mbappe, Messi getting the goals and assists for each other. I currently have Mbappe and Neymar in my team, but I am tempted to go from Neymar to Messi for this game. Um,
It's sideways,
it is
but I
sideways.
understand why. I do understand why.
Messi's in the better form currently, and I do think that going against Juventus, I do think that Messi will be better in there as well. Because I think kind of what you said in the last match day 3 and 4 is against Benfica that Neymar is not going to get his own way. He's going to sulk, and then because that kind of happened in both games.
If death taxes and a Neymar sulk after 45 minutes, three
But
things certain in life.
Messi is starting to get that spark back, isn't he? Right in time for the World Cup.
Yeah, it's
Um,
magic, I mean, magic.
I saw a thing that if he plays, he just needs to be rested one game before the World Cup, which would mean that the final or the semi-final
Final,
is his 1000th game or something.
final, yeah.
That's just written
He's
in the
on.
stars.
Yeah, if he gets arrested for one game between now and the World Cup, he'll be on 993 games. So his 1000th could be the World Cup final until get knocked out in the semis.
Yeah,
I think I'm one of the few people that don't see Argentina doing much, to be honest.
yeah.
I think Brazil are a much better team,
Because of
but
my
just me.
transfer nightmare, my transfer that I'm lining up due to the extra funds that I've got accidentally, Gomez to Hakimi for this game. But I am also
I've
looking
got
at
Mendes on that.
Dumfries. But and we'll touch on them
Yes,
later. Um,
yes. I've got Mendes and I've got Mbappe. So I'll be keeping Mbappe. I think Mendes is still injured. So I think that's a really easy Mendes out, Dumfries in. I
mhm.
don't think anything's ever been more simple in my entire life for a transfer. My two transfers are locked in the sense that I know who's coming out. It's Mendes and it's Sane.
Mhm.
So It's nicer to not have a headache. Just make the two, see what happens.
Maccabi Haifa did score against Paris Saint-Germain last time. Even though
Exactly.
Paris Saint-Germain do have 2 clean sheets against good opposition over the last, well, since we last recorded. Maccabi Haifa won on the weekend 3-2.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a pretty good fun team to watch, aren't they? So
Yeah, they are. They score goals. Like I'm going to be quite happy watching this game. It's hard because I want to watch the Dortmund Man City game as well, and I'm not one of those people. You know where you get the setup where they've got like the TV and the laptop and then the computer monitor and the phone. I'm just too much. Just
might
watch
as
the
well
goal
watch
show.
just watch the goal show.
Watch the goal show. But yeah, I think the two fixtures that I would like to watch that night. But then Leipzig versus Real Madrid. I think it's a belting night, that Tuesday night of football. Like really exciting games, and because of a couple of injuries to certain people, could be really interesting. Some of them. I still think PSG will win this one courtesy of being at home and beat them away. But I can see Maccabi Haifa scoring as well. I think it'll be like a 3-1 or something to
Yeah.
PSG.
The other game, there's not anyone you're considering Maccabi Haifa though. No.
No, obviously the lad that scored a brace against Juventus should probably be in our thoughts. But it's just for me at this point. Uh, I'm kind of locked into who I've got to go for, really.
Yeah.
I know that's a bit
Benfica
boring, but
versus Juventus. Juventus, just I think we need to look at them a lot different to how we do in the past. So this is potentially Benfica whipping her boys. We should potentially target Benfica if we can. A couple of people still have defenders there, and Benfica on the weekend winning 1-0 against Porto, huge game.
great result that.
But Juventus winning 4-0. Moise Kean, McKennie, and Rabiot getting 2 goals again. But don't let that fool you. The team is just, we don't know which one will turn up. Who knows?
Who were they
This will
playing
probably
against at the weekend?
Empoli.
Oh yeah, there were. I remember now. Empoli, they're right against them last season, but yeah, I mean, you
Currently
wouldn't expect
12th.
much.
Yeah, they're currently
Yeah,
12th.
you wouldn't expect. So look, that's a good result for you. I think beating someone 12th in the league 4 and out is a good result for them. Rabiot, should we be considering Rabiot? He's getting braces left, right, and centre. Yeah, he is a good player. He is a good player. He's criminally underused and he has a terrible attitude. But like he's a talented lad.
Yeah. But I think this is kind of these are the kind of fixtures where you just hold if you have them, but don't buy anyone in.
You see, I think that people should proactively be looking to bring Benfica players in for this fixture, and then
Maccabi Haifa and
Maccabi Haifa last. I think these are 2 great fixtures with really cheap assets. And if I had no fires to put out, I could see myself going straight for Grimaldo, Gonzalo Ramos, one of those 2 maybe, even like a Rafa Silva, maybe. I don't see why you wouldn't. Otamendi, because Juventus aren't great, and they'll get the ball recoveries, and then they've got Maccabi Haifa, and I think this is still a group where teams are still fighting, and I still think they'll be fighting until matchday 6, especially with the Portuguese league. They'd rather rest in the Portuguese league than the Champions League.
Yeah, definitely. The amount of income that they'll get for these teams is crazy, and it's how that league has gotten so competitive over the years. No, definitely. It's kind of what you were saying there. It's just hard to try and, I mean, for a lot of people, you will save money getting these players in, probably adding to your budget.
Yeah.
So definitely a good shout, but Juventus are just one of them teams where you just don't know how they'll turn up. And then just with the last group with this, we've got Celtic versus Shakhtar. Celtic, I think they controversially, I heard,
4-3 or something at the weekend. I saw
I
bits
must
and
have
bobs of
seen
that
that from
game.
a
It was
different
insane.
Twitter account.
I think it was 4-3.
Apparently, one of the goals was controversial, but I haven't watched
Yeah.
it, so I cannot comment. But
They had a goal disallowed the opposition as well for 4-4.
and that might have been it.
So yeah, it was by all accounts an absolute mental game.
And then Shakhtar over the weekend, it was postponed, I believe. So they last played Wednesday the 19th, 3-0. They're doing all right. And it's just hard to try and get kind of information on like what's kind of going on with these players and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, we didn't even know that Shved, where we don't know what's happened there. But also on Google, when you look at their lineup, there's a couple of players missing their names. So it just has a number playing in that position. So that's always positive.
Yeah, so hard. And it's not on any channels. Like some of the other games are on certain channels, shall we say. These, absolutely impossible. And I think it's just about going off what we already know. Mudrak for Shakhtar. And then especially, obviously, they've got Leipzig in the last game, who they're battered, and I don't want to rotate, so I think he could be decent. Celtic, you're just not going to go anywhere near. Even if you think they might have a chance in this game, they've then got Real Madrid away in the last game. And Celtic have proven by the fact that they're already out that they aren't very good. So yeah, we could recommend their players, but seriously, who's bringing them in other than SPL fans? And you'll know who to bring in anyway. So I think Mudrak a bust for that game, and I think beyond that, it's been pleasant. Pleasant even.
And the last game for the Tuesday is Leipzig versus Real Madrid. Leipzig over the weekend drawing 3-3 with Augsburg.
Dramatic as well, Aaron.
You saw this one?
It was they were losing 3-1 until the 88th minute. But Nkunku came off the bench, made it 3-2. Then they eventually managed to a non-asset managed to get the third after the 90th minute. So that was hairy for them at the weekend, and I think it was probably due to rotation, and then maybe the opposition taking the foot off the gas, and then when they do get that second, the momentum is all with Leipzig. So it was an interesting game.
And then Real Madrid, as we mentioned before, beating Sevilla 3-1. Modric, Vasquez, and Valverde. We know that Benzema didn't start.
We've seen the squad, Aaron, as well. I don't know if you've seen the squad. The squad has been released. No Valverde, no Benzema.
Ooh.
So if you got either of them, you don't anymore. Basically. So they're fires for you. Happy fires, yay. I don't know if I own any of them. I don't own Valverde. Can't remember who I own at this point because the limitless up front. I don't think I own Benzema. So that's handy. Do you own either of them?
I don't have any Real Madrid players in my team.
So I think obviously it's probably good to keep Nkunku if they're missing. Valverde's been their best player this season. He's unbelievable. We've said for a while how good he is and that he's really undervalued, really underappreciated, never gets talked about enough. Shakhtar starts scoring goals and now people go, oh, he's amazing. Well, he's the same player. He's just now putting them in from 30 yards out every game. So good. And he's going to be a massive miss for them. But they do have Modric back. And they're still going to have Tchouaméni, Kroos, Camavinga. So it's not like they're going to be lacking people to play centre midfield in the game. And it means that Vinicius Jr. is going to be pretty much nailed. Rodrigo is going to be pretty much nailed. Happy days. And the draw last week probably helps because we know that they've kind of got to go out and do the business. Away, I'm hoping this is a high-scoring game. I'm hoping this is reminiscent of Leipzig, Man City, where it was like 5-3 to Man City. I'm hoping that it's a A big game, lots of goals. And if Leipzig get a result, that's a really good thing for us because it means, again, Real Madrid have to go out and batter Celtic in the last game, which is probably what we want.
I think they've already qualified.
Who, Real Madrid, but for top spot, isn't it? I thought that, have they finished top already?
You might be right.
I know that because they've got 10 points, which I think is qualified, but I don't think they've got top yet. But I might be wrong with that.
Yes, I believe you're right.
So I think, but I think a draw's enough. So I think it needs to be Leipzig winning. I think Leipzig need to win. So yeah, if Leipzig can do that, then that would be great. Because again, top spot is just massive in the Champions League. Imagine Real Madrid finishing second, by the way. Someone's got to go and play them. Because I think, is that not what happened last year?
I can't remember.
I can't remember, but they had like, obviously that running was insane. Because they had PSG, Chelsea, Man City. That was mental. That was,
oh yeah, it was.
And then Liverpool. Yeah. So I think they finished second. I think it's hard to remember, but you wouldn't want the team wouldn't want to face them playing second. But equally, they don't want to do that again. Surely they don't want to have the potential to play a PSG or a Chelsea or anyone like that, depending on whether they finish top. So that's something that we could look forward to. As far as Leipzig go, they're annoying. They're really, really annoying. Forsberg coming back into the side at times is really annoying because he scores. He does score quite a few goals. Maybe he doesn't get the start he deserves. But he's on pens generally when he's on the pitch, not in Kunku. Silva is starting to get into the goals a bit more. He's getting some assists as well in the league. I mean, Timo Werner getting a goal and an assist in the last Champions League is just the ultimate troll. So yeah, they're a frustrating team. Szoboszlai's not been playing great. So if you have a Leipzig player, I wouldn't be rushing to get rid of them, but I definitely wouldn't be bringing them in for this game either. But the fact that I've gotten Kunku, and I think a lot of people will against Real Madrid, I don't think it's anything to be scared of, and at least it's a Tuesday. Like, that's the good thing. If he blanks, I can take him out, unless the rest of my players blank as well, which could happen.
Just to finish off today, I guess best captaincy options.
Ooh, Haaland is ever on a Tuesday, but I feel like we need to go punty, don't we? We need to go punty. Who is the punt? Not that many good punty options. I'd say if Chilwell's playing left wing back against Salzburg, which he might not, but we'll get to see the team news, I think Chilwell could be a great captaincy punt. Hakimi could well be against Maccabi Haifa. That could be a lovely punt. And Theo Hernandez against Zagreb. Obviously, I've gone for wing backs. Grimaldo. But punt, I feel like all of our good punts are wing backs, Aaron. But if you want to be safe, I think loads of people are going to go Haaland. What about you?
Yeah, I think tons of people are going to go Haaland. So yeah, I think normally we try to go punty, but I think it's one of them match days where you just, for a lot of people, they don't want to fall in rank anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah,
that could be the play.
And I think just overall in this match day both days, I think that the best assets are on the Tuesday. I think a lot of people will stick with their captains, especially with the Bayern Munich injury news, but we'll touch on that in the next episode.
Yep. So thank you very, very much for watching. As ever, we are the main event. You can get us on Twitter at UCL Fantasy Pod. If you go there on our profile, you'll see our link tree. It's got the link to the podcast written on, and we will see you next time for the Wednesday match day preview. Best of luck this week, guys. Bye now.